So welcome everybody. Thank you for coming to tonight's meeting. We've got two guests tonight. So we've got Sharon and Marie from Beyond a Water. And they're going to give us a bit of insight to the projects and the initiative that they've got running. And then what we'll do is we'll have a bit of a Q&A session at the end. So welcome, ladies. Thank you for joining us tonight. And I will now hand over to you.
Thank you. So I'm just going to run this slideshow. Now, I'm pre-warning that I'm also in Nairobi, and where I am, the internet is very unstable. So if it gets really bad, I have to walk over to the office where Mary is. So in 2007, my husband, Pete, who's at a school right now, we're living in Sydney, Australia, and we were presented with the facts, and this is pre-Rotary days, that 5,000 children die every day because of lack of waterborne diseases. Now, we were living with our children. The one on the left, Liz, she's our oldest. She's here in Nairobi with us. And then the other one, Hannah, on the right with her tribe of children. They live in Airlie Beach in far north Queensland. And at that stage, the girls were just finishing up with school, and we were rather bored living 4-minute walk from the beach. So in 2012, we came to Kenya, and this is our Nairobi-based team, well, our African-based team of some of our leaders there, that over the last nearly 13 years we have been working with, and they do a fantastic job. We've got many more people, but why did we start it? We started it with the dream of giving one child clean drinking water, which sounds very easy. And in those days, there was nobody in Australia focusing just on water and sanitation. It was always connected to education, child sponsorship. So we started it, and then 5 years later moved to Kenya. We became Rotarians because a man called George in the US said, stop just speaking at Rotary clubs, become a Rotarian and you'll get more bang for your buck. So what started out just with a passion has turned into reality of 240,000 people every day getting clean drinking water and sanitation facilities. And we all have volunteers across several parts of the world. We're very small. These are some of our board members who are passionate about giving not a hand out, but a hand up. And that's very, very important. So it's our morning, your evening, and we're going to share a little bit of our projects, and Mary's going to jump in on some of those things there. So let's talk about water. So as Rotarians, we're of course very aware of the needs there, that 1 billion people don't have access to water, 2 billion don't have access to any form of a toilet. Now, in the early days, we thought it was just going to be deep bore wells with a simple hand pump, which is what we did. And they were so cheap. It was like $7,000 to do that. And now everything, of course, has exploded in costs. But we started out working in villages with a hand pump, and they cater for about 600 people. And in fact, the very first hand pump that we put in that you'll see coming up was from Melbourne, from Ivanhoe Girls Grammar School, who raised in 1 month $60,000. So when you see that, you can see the impact of what students have done. Now, we get 2 rainy seasons, usually April and December. And we work across 7 countries: Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Tanzania, Ethiopia, South Sudan, and the DRC. Depending on who's having war, who's having elections. This was the first hand pump that we put in that you see from Ivanhoe in Melbourne, which was very, very cool, and that amongst many other things. But we advanced on that because we wanted to have more of a holistic approach. So we saw that, yes, communities need water. We work in areas where there isn't the access to it, and that's the big problem. But we needed to work alongside communities. So this is my husband, Pete, who is not chopping off the man's arm. We do free school programs in Australia and New Zealand, the US, and a teacher was horrified. She literally said, why is your husband cutting off someone's arm? I'm like, really? That's not very good. But we work alongside communities. What do they think the problem is? What do they think the solution is? And how can we assist you? So one of the key areas is schools. Schools are the hub of a community, but only 30% of schools have any form of a toilet. So we call them latrines, you might call them long drops. So we are approached by a community. They have to form a committee. 50% of that committee must be women, because they're the ones who have to go get the water. They have to go get quotes. They have to do business plans. And when it comes to the toilet blocks, we employ locals. So this is your average school toilet that you might see. That was a staff toilet. I've actually used that one and survived. But we build ones that last literally a lifetime. So they'll last at least 20 years. It costs about $6,000. Used to cost us $3,500, but increase of prices. But they last. So we use Colorbond roofing, steel doors. We use ceramic Asian pans, which are the squat toilets. We make sure that there's guttering and tanks so the kids have easy access to washing their hands, which is very, very important. This is the ceramic pans, we call them Asian pans, and it's all done by hand. There's no machine work. So we employ some of the parents from the school, and we have a cook who will cook for them. And it takes about a month to build those block of toilets. After about 20 years, when the pit is filled up from all the waste, it can actually be sucked out. We call it from an exhauster. And then we continue working on the school needs. So it'll be water tank and guttering on the buildings. This was in a Maasai area in Kenya. And as you can see, it's literally all done by hand. So we have an agreement with Rotary tanks, and they will deliver our tanks anywhere in Kenya for free. You'll often see schools that will have some form of guttering, which is really cruddy stuff, or they'll have water tanks, but they're not connected. So this was one of the schools in a slum area. We mostly work in rural areas, but this was just up the road. So we thought we'd give them a helping hand with that, and replacing the taps on them. This is your average rural toilet there. And the reason it's brown is because of the red soil that we have. And they're built very, very cheaply, but it's better than nothing. But sometimes that's not very good. And you imagine the health issues that students face when they don't have hand washing facilities and they don't have toilets, and open defecation is very normal. So this was in northern Uganda. Mary came up with us last year, and this was the second phase. We built the boys, this was the girls, and we also did a shower block for them. Because these children, it's very close to the South Sudan border, and to go into school is a privilege here. It's not a right. It's not like Aussie where you might go at 5 and you just continue on and on. It goes beyond that. We usually start about the age of 3, and if kids are at school at 6:30 in these schools that we work in, you are late, and you usually go to school on Saturdays. So we want to build something that my children, my grandchildren, and even of course myself would use. When we finish at that school, we always hold a health education day, very important. It's usually student run, so they learn how to make liquid hand soap, games, drama. Mary, what else do we put in? Tell us about those water filters and why they're important.
So we've partnered with a company called Nazava, who distribute water filters to the schools. So when you go to the schools and install tanks and guttering, we want the students to drink clean water. So the desktop filters, they put the rainwater in the desktop filters, and then they get to drink clean water in school. So to ensure that they are hydrated during the day and they have clean water.
So some clubs are donating. We set a standard price of $100, and that includes the training, because training is very important. The kids learn how to maintain them. $100 for those. And then as often as possible, we distribute new underwear, because underwear is very expensive. And when you're from a family that earns only $2 a day, that is low on the priority list. So we have a little kids here with they're like, woohoo, undies. We call them panties here. And I can tell you now, 1,000 of those fit in a suitcase, because the Rotarians have gone to places like Kmart and Big W to buy them, and there's 1,000 fit in there, and you try getting those past corrupt customs officers claiming for private use, but now we can buy them, so that's really good. So I'm going to share about Goswani Health Centre, and then Mary is going to share about the Girl Project. So we facilitate schools, medical clinics, and remote areas. So this is a really good example to see what Rotarians have been doing and contributing towards. Dr. Tonya Hawthorne came to Kenya about 19 years ago, there she is in the blue, and set up a maternity hospital. So it caters for about 30,000 Maasai people. Women would often walk for 8 hours, come and give birth, have a cup of tea, and walk home again. So she set up this facility, but had no water and no electricity for about the first 16 years. And she is a high-ranking doctor who's dedicated her life to most vulnerable people. This is the X-ray machine, which she brought in suitcases, which works when there's power, which is very, very good. People get knocked off motorbikes, stood on by animals, gouged by buffaloes, all sorts of things. There's even one that got trodden on by elephants. But maternity care is their high priority. And so Dr. Tonya was doing this. And so my husband, Pete, said to her, you focus on the medical, we'll focus on the water. It might take us some years, but we'll get there. So a few years ago, actually 7 years ago, we put in one 10,000 litre tank, because this was the water that Dr. Tonya, was her bathing area, where they would get everything from. It's seasonal river. And that's Julius there, the community chief. And they're really hoping that someone would come, because one in 20 women in Africa die in childbirth. Tanzania, which is an hour's drive away, is 1 in 10 women die in childbirth. So we put in a 10,000 litre water tank and some guttering. And then a couple of years ago, we put in a deep bore well. We brought in with a drilling company called Drilling for Life, who are Kenyan based, really good guys. And they drilled down and we hit 10,000 litres per hour. So Dr. Tonya's gone from 0 to 10,000 litres per hour. And so that was fantastic. But we had a couple of problems. Number one, it was too much for the 37 staff and all the patients to be able to use. And number two, it was very high in fluoride and iron. And when it's too high in fluoride, it can actually strip the bones and the teeth of children of calcium. And so we reached out to some Rotary friends. It was one group in Hong Kong and a few others around the place. And they helped us put in a reverse osmosis system, which has made it an acceptable level. And across the road is a primary school of 1,000 students who had zero amount of water. And I mean zero. You could see the river where they were getting it from. It was all solar powered and everything like that. So we're now able to pipe across the road to those 1,000 students, which has helped with the water use. Because with a borehole, if you're not using enough, it can actually damage it, which is something that we found out. We had to put it on solar because you see the beautiful weather that we have here. But also their power goes out, often for 2 weeks at a time. So Dr. Tonya's been actually in the States fundraising to get everything in their compound on solar. But she said to me, I said, what's the effects of this? She goes, I've built now a maternity ward that women can come and stay in for the night before they have to go home and work with the cows and the children again. She goes, I can, for the first time in 19 years, I can have an indoor bathroom and indoor toilet. So she doesn't have to toddle outside in the middle of the night to use the toilet. She goes, all my staff now have showers and flush toilets. And she goes, and we can have a washing machine for all our bedding and medical stuff because we have water. So it's a simple little thing that Rotary's been able to help with. Now, Mary, I'm going to leave this to you to talk about the Girl Project.
Awesome, thank you. So we run the Girl Project across East Africa. Currently, the main projects are in Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda. We currently have 190 girls in the program. So you may ask, what does it involve? Usually meet, especially for the Kibera, we meet every third Saturday of the month, and we issue them with dignity packs. That is undergarments and also sanitary products. Other than that, we bring in female leaders to come and speak to these girls for empowerment and also mentorship, regardless of where they're coming from and what they're doing in terms of career. So they guide them and also have like group meetings where we get to have one-on-one sessions with the girls. Other than that, we do home visits because some of these girls are coming from really needy homes whereby parents are casual workers. They have to wash clothes for them to get food. So most of the times, like sanitary products is the least of their concern. They have to eat. If they get say it's $2 for a day, so they have to divide whether it's food or it's going to be sanitary products. So we've come to bridge this gap, and we have computer classes once they finish the program. So a girl joins the program when they're 12 years. We're with that girl up until they're 18 years every month, ensuring that they get sanitary products, they get empowerment, they get mentorship, they get the support that they need. Some of the girls in the Rwanda, the Girl Project, are being raised by single dads. A situation whereby mothers just woke up and left the girls. So being part of the Girl Project ensures that they get that motherly and that feminine guidance as they are maneuvering teenagehood and also on the journey of becoming seasoned women in the society. In addition to the sanitary products, once they finish high school, we take them through a free computer class session whereby we teach them how to use the computer and they're certified, and we have also organizations that sponsor girls into and food and beverage catering courses that they may wish to pursue. It only takes $80 for a girl to be part of the program for a whole year, and that ensures that every month they get dignity products. For the Syrian girls, they have been rescued from early marriage and FGM. We are in 2024, guys, and early marriage is still a thing in the Maasai culture. Female FGM is still a thing in 2024. So we are working with a group of Maasai women who rescued these girls, and they're also part of the program. The benefits of these girls being in the program, we've had girls come back. They have been through the program and they've come back and they have held the hand of the other girls who are part of the program. They have come and mentored them. They're also encouraging the girls to give back to the society by also doing charitable events at Sharon, are you okay?
Yep, keep going.
Sorry. Oh, doing it at orphanages. So we draw some encouragement to the girls, and then the girls also find a way to give back to the society. Yeah. Over to Sharon.
Thanks, Mary. Sorry, I'm having technical issues here. Thanks, Mary. That's really cool. In fact, the Girl Project is reaching hundreds of students, which is great. And we have community leaders in those places in northern Uganda, in Rwanda, Kasserine, which is about an hour's drive from here. So you saw also that there were some cycling challenges. And the reason was that over COVID, Pete and I were actually stuck in New Zealand. And my husband is full ADD, so he went cycling and it became a cycling challenges. So a couple of years ago, a group of us, including some Rotarians, cycled the North Island of New Zealand. He did the South Island of New Zealand himself this year, and we have coming up in Texas this poster that you'll see here. We met a guy called Jeff, who's now on our board, when we were at the Houston convention, because we try to get to the conventions every few years in the House of Friendship. And he goes, I like this idea, I like what you're doing. And so he has happening in Houston, only 32 kilometers, it's 20 miles, a cycling challenge every year in November. So he's doing it for the third year coming up in November, which is really good. And there's some Rotary clubs there who are now getting involved, and hopefully we'll be able to take that on. Anybody who knows Houston, it's flat as a pancake. And easy to get around, but anybody's welcome to do it. So that's we thought of another initiative. So next year we are doing the South Island of New Zealand, but in 2026 we're actually going to do Australia, and we're looking maybe from Perth to Adelaide to cycle. We're still negotiating on that one, but it's a good way to get other people involved, either who don't know about Beyond Water. Maybe they're connected to a Rotary club, and it's got people involved. And that's what we're about, is partnering with people. When we do these presentations, we're not just saying, please, sir, give me more. We're actually more about building relationship. And it's always good for us to be able to showcase what Rotary has done and is doing. So we've got a number of clubs who do district grants, and we've got some Rotarians coming over next year and things like that. So that's really good to be able to facilitate that. And so that dream of giving one child clean drinking water has actually spawned into hundreds of thousands. And like Mary was saying, when they come and they give back to their own communities, that's a satisfying thing until you see the next need and the next need. So but it's really good to be able to say, we've done this. This is our model. This is how we operate. We know this is successful, and we've got a team that will continue it on beyond Peter and I. So that's a little bit about Beyond Water, water and sanitation across East Africa. Any questions?
Where are your main supporters at the moment coming from? Your main Rotary supporters?
Oh, okay. We have some Interact clubs from New Zealand that hold a trivia night every year. We also have schools that give towards us in community groups. So Rotary clubs, we're looking at a global grant with St. Cloud in Florida. We're hoping that one comes off. Mary's working very hard. Mary's focus is on East Africa, on Africa. So she's building up that relationship with clubs there. Mary can share about those in a sec. We have got aviation, Rotary Aviation. It's an E-Club. They went out and fundraised $14,000 US just within a month. They said to all their members over the world, you're were going to fundraise or donate $200, and they did an incredible job. Ellerslie Rotary in New Zealand. We had in Melbourne, we had a club that name has just gone past my mind. A couple of clubs there, just little bits and pieces. Yeah, Mary, what's with some local Rotary clubs that you're focusing on?
Okay, so okay, let me start with Uganda. We had the Rotary Club of Kitgum come through at Palabek, and also donated what do you call them, crutches for a boy that was in need. For Kenya, we are working with several, actually, Jabali and Kare, basically just plugging in by donating water filters, hand washing stations, and we are looking for more clubs to partner with, just across, depending on their signature project, because each club has their own signature project. So just creating relationship across Rotary clubs here.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Norman, you've got a question, my friend?
Yeah, it sounds as though you've got a formula that works extremely well and that involves the local community. A lot of Australian clubs have done water projects in Asia, and some of the early ones didn't turn out to be properly sustainable because the local communities either didn't have the skills or the interest or the training to buy into maintaining the equipment and keeping things going properly. What's been your experience with your earliest projects, and are they still working well with the community maintaining the facilities?
Well, you're correct. There's no such word as maintenance in places like East Africa. That's why engaging with the community is really important. And we do projects slowly. So they may take 5 years on average. You do one thing and then see how they go, see we need to work at it. But we do have an exit point on that where they are solely responsible. The hand pumps, what communities don't realise is that after about 5 years, you need to pull that borehole up, and that costs a lot of money. So it's working alongside them saying, okay, where's your little kitty? Where's your fund that you can contribute towards that? Because we're not going to be ongoing. We can't afford this. We changed our toilet blocks to be more sustainable, so they weren't wooden. And we actually had a rotoractor come from New Zealand a few years ago, and he designed the block that we use now. Have we failed? We've had complications. For example, sometimes we do consulting. So there was a Rotary Club, Caroline Springs in Melbourne. They're doing a project in Sierra Leone, which isn't our background. So we're consulting on them. But their nearest Rotary Club is 500 kilometres away. I'm not sure how they're going to sustain that. We like to work with a local club. So we did another solar-powered deep bore well for the Kaserian community. So it's 40 minutes, an hour's drive away. It's not actually our project. We didn't fundraise for it. We wouldn't have done it that way, but we facilitated for some seniors from Perth who had fundraised $60,000. That has some challenges because they haven't had community buy-in. But that's been like that for 20 years. So we're like, okay, we're going to finish it up and we're just going to hand it over, and that will become your problem. But with ours, we do like the 3, 6, and 12-month report, and pretty much after that, it's your baby. You just see how it goes. I think having a committee, having a buy-in, saying to them, what do you think it is? We've also we've realised with remote communities, it's good for us to go visit the police station so that they know who we are and that kind of thing. So we go take a crate of bottles of fizzy drink and some donuts and things like that. Not to bribe them, because we don't do bribery, but just to let them know who we are. And because we buy local, we stay local, and we buy materials and employ people, I think that's a win-win. You think, Mary, you think that's our formula that seems to have won?
Yes, I think that's the best, because we involve the committees from the word go. From the time that you're doing the needs assessment, by the time you're starting to do the project projections, when you're buying and starting the project, we involve the community. So by the time you're finalizing a school project or a community project, everyone knows what needs to be done. And by the time we leave, they know how they're going to maintain it. It's not been easy, but at least we have like 7 over 10 people, like they know what is going on, even in terms of transition. Say for school, if a teacher is transferred to another school, there's the deputy, there's
Yeah, we've got a bit of connection problem there.
the
That's okay. I really like hearing what you're saying, because if you actually have a look at Gabe's background, we're actually a peace building club. And one of the challenges I think with a lot of Rotarians is they have excellent intent and they spend money on projects, but it's not a holistic approach to the project. And it looks really good. We used to call it a feel good. You go in, you do something, it feels really good, and then you walk away, and then you come back 12 months later, you go, where is it? What happened? And it's because you haven't got that buy-in, and sometimes you need to move slow to actually move quickly. So getting that buy-in, getting the engagement, using the labor, and why is it here and not here, having those discussions early rather than once it's in and you've got conflict. So you're actually a peace builder. You just don't know it because of the way that you actually do your work. So yeah, big tick from me.
Well, thank you. I think it's the difference of when people come in for a couple of weeks, that's all you can do, you know. When you're in development work, you're there for the long term. Now, some of our projects are an 8-hour drive away, you know, some are in other countries. So that takes time and takes a lot of money, you know. You've got to go out there. So I know Pete and the guy who designed the toilets, they traveled 8 hours to go out, look at a project for literally 15 minutes, and then they drove back again the next day. You know, but that's just part of the investment. And I can tell you of many failed projects, not from ours, thankfully, but just up from the road from Dr. Tonya at Goswami, and Mary just got an email about this, there's a combined Rotary Lions hospital, beautiful facilities, no staff, no medication, no patients. And it's because there was nobody there. And we do get that feel good. And it is really cool. But for us, because we're on the ground, we get the life stories. We get to live life like with the Girls in the Girl Project and things like that. And we have had to get really strict about some things. So for some of the girls, we've had to remove them from the program because lack of attendance, not provided material, they may have got pregnant and things like that. So, you know, some of them, they just don't appreciate it. And we don't keep in continual contact with the completed projects because it's their project. We're supporting them and things like that. And we are taking it slowly. And so, look, I'll be sending your club a document that has some particular project if somebody's interested in that or you're looking for projects. I know you guys are busy because I've seen your stuff, but it's also good for people to know who we are. And that there's some crazy people out there doing some stuff. But honestly, we have the best team in the world. We have the best boards. You know, our main board is in Australia. And, you know, Mary will jump on Zoom calls with people and all that kind of thing. I think we're at a really good position. And now we're just going to keep racking it up. We actually had to pull back from building. So last year we were building every single month and programs were going galore. And we said, no, we need to pace it out a bit more. Because number one, yes, you need the money, but also you need the people. And if you exhaust your people, you're not going to be there for the long term. Sometimes the hardest thing for a Rotarian to do is to say no, because they want to please and help everybody, but sometimes you just cannot. So sometimes you just need to say no, I can't do that just now. Maybe we'll come back to it later, but sometimes we just need to say no. Excellent. Don.
Thanks, Richard. Have you come across Sky Hydrant?
Yep.
You do know about the disaster aid facility?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I think your bike ride from Perth to Adelaide, you're going through about the least populated part of Australia, total maximum 3 million people. If you were to do it from Hobart to Cairns, you go through 28 million people. I reckon as far as effectiveness for what you've got to put in for the same distance ride, it's not uphill to Cairns.
My daughter lives at Airlie Beach. I know how hilly it gets.
And the Nullarbor is like the Nullarbor is flat. Like there's one section there, it's 110 Ks without a corner.
Yeah, so you won't get much in the way of donations there.
Oh, you'll be surprised. But yeah, we will consider it. We'll actually avoid cities as much as possible because it's tricky getting in and out of them. That's the thing. But we haven't even started planning. We're just dreaming at the moment. We're already looking at Scotland in 2027, I
fair
think.
enough.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
There is a traditional history of Rotary supporting other parts of the world, and Rotary in the United States and Canada support South America. Rotary in Australia, New Zealand, and Japan support Southeast Asia and Oceania. Rotary in Europe have an historical support of Africa. Do you have an outreach into the UK and Europe?
Well, as we speak, my daughter who's sick, she's there, would normally be doing a database. We're actually looking at going into the UK, but we also want to establish ourselves. So when it took us 5 years to get off the ground in New Zealand, Aussie, COVID kind of that one, but we're rebuilding. And in the US, we've got some guys there that are doing some stuff. And so we focus on that, but we would really like to get to the UK simply because it's a straight 8-hour flight. So it's very much cheaper than flying to Aussie, that's for sure. Yeah. And also for that reason, we are working with that. So that would be really good.
But something to know is that the biggest donors, apart from the Japanese and the Indians, are Europeans, Germany, Holland, France, Switzerland. And I think they're often, because of the perceived language difficulty, which there isn't, because they all speak English. I attend at least 4 European Rotary meetings a month, and they all speak English. They conduct their Rotary meetings in English. But did you know you talked about Sierra Leone, there are only 2 Rotary clubs in Sierra Leone, one in Freetown and one in Bow. And you've got at least the advantage of having a fair few more and at a higher level of involvement in Rotary in Kenya.
Mary's a Rotarian. So our district 921 is actually she knew how to work the system. So we're actually holding our very first Kenyan-based big event in April next year. So hopefully some of our donors and sponsors will come to that. So we've got the venue and all that, which will be our 10th year of the Girl Project. So, which actually the Girl Project came about not because we saw the need, but because I was doing a business person's meeting in Sydney one year, years and years ago, and a woman said very haughtily, "I will only support projects with women and girls." So it got me thinking, and that's how it came about. And the Girl Project is good because it's only $80 a year. So people go, it's only a few bucks, it's tax deductible, so they like that, and clubs can do the big projects, and people donating little bits and pieces, and we've had people doing their own fundraisers and things like that. So that's really good, because I think in charitable services sometimes we've made it too hard for people to volunteer, and we've made it too hard for them to partake financially. So we cap the Girl Project at $80, doesn't matter if it's US, New Zealand, Aussie. And so you've got lots of grandparents that go, I'm going to not buy, it sounds terrible. The Christmas gift will be supporting a child, or, my grandchild in my grandchild's name. So it gets them participating. And even with our own Rotary Club, so Pete and I belong to one, it's called Pahudakawa Coast in New Zealand. We meet every fortnight on Zoom and person to person. And I say to the guys, it's in a bit of a remote area. And I said, we've got to get the locals involved, whether it's at the school with dictionaries or reading programs or whatever, because we're not there. We're only there maybe once or twice a year if we're really lucky. It depends how many grandchildren are being born. So they have to do it, and we have to get people involved. And I think as Rotarians, we don't want to exclude people. And this is the beauty of technology. So I was with a Rotary Club somewhere last week, and they had 2 visitors from somewhere else who would not have come to a Rotary meeting had it not been for technology. So you guys have got a step ahead of others, I reckon.
I was actually going to say, like you said that you might send some more information to the club. Is that correct? Yeah. Because our club's probably a little bit unique. Like, we're actually a group of individuals that gather via Zoom, etc., but we're actually more active via our networks. Like I'm in the Yarra Valley, and Norman and Donna in Sale, etc. So it could be quite a good opportunity to maybe spread the wings a little bit as far as our networks, and see if there's any opportunity to support. So it's excellent work that you guys do. Hat off to you, absolutely. Maybe before we close off with the presentation part, is there anyone else got any last minute questions they'd like to ask by either Sharon or Marie? No?
Love the presentation.
Yeah.
And we would love to get involved in it, I reckon.
Yeah.
And if Janet's got a thumb up, then we probably will.
So thank the pair of you for
Yeah.
coming tonight. Great presentation. Looking forward to future contacts with you guys. Again, you're welcome to sit in on the rest of the session if you like. We're virtually just going to do a round the room about what people have been up to and what they're planning. So you can shoot off and do whatever you like, or sit in. So thank you once again. Great presentation, and thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you. I'm going to hang around. I don't know what Mary's going to do, but I'm always interested.
Thank you for having us.
All right, so I might stop the recording at that point there, and then we'll do it around the room.